It's amazing how quickly things can be forgotten when there is no longer anyone with first-hand knowledge to talk about them. You may know about your grandparents' lives, but how much do you know about their grandparents? Do you know your family's circumstances 200 years before you were born? If the answer is no, how can we hope to fully understand the mysteries of the distant past? Number 1. The Iron Cavalry Parade Mask. We continue with a very rare Roman discovery that took place in Romania in February 2023. It is an Iron Cavalry Parade mask approximately 1,000 years old. Roman parade masks are rare finds, but this particular one is especially unique. Of the few parade masks found in Romania, all were made of bronze. This is the only one found in the country made of iron. Unfortunately, the fact that it is made of iron means that it is very rusty, having spent centuries buried in damp soil. Experts indicate that the mask is of the calc type, which can be identified by the thinness of the eye slits, the wide nose, and the strangely peaceful expression. The discovery was made by Bitek Biorel, an amateur metal detectorist, which is rare, since in Romania a government license is required to own metal detectors. This mask probably belonged to someone stationed at the nearby Roman fort of Bambu during the Dacian Wars. Hopefully, it will look much better after being cleaned and preserved. Number 2. The St. Belek Slab. The oldest map of Europe is a highly controversial claim for this ancient artifact, but it may be accurate. The slab was first found in France in 1900, although it was initially considered insignificant and was lost for more than a century before being rediscovered and more closely examined. It was that recent examination that led to the idea that this Bronze Age artifact might be more important than it seems. The slab is covered in inscriptions and markings that were once thought to be symbolic, but experts now believe it is an accurate topographical representation of the Odette River and the area around it. If this is true, it would be an incredible achievement, considering that the people who created it lived approximately 4,100 years ago. If we interpret the slab as a map, it can probably be seen as an indication of the territory that belonged to a leader or king of the time. The fact that the slab was intentionally burned, broken, and then buried could represent the conquest of the territory by another entity. However, this is all conjecture. The idea that this is the oldest map of Europe is quickly being accepted as a fact. Number 3. Human bone daggers. Bone daggers are relatively common archaeological discoveries in New Guinea. They are often elaborately decorated objects, and it is believed that the quality and beauty of each dagger was a sign of the prestige and power of the warrior who possessed it. Until 2018, scientists and archaeologists believed there was another way ancient New Guinea warriors made claims about their power. While most of the daggers found in the country are made of animal bone, some of them are made of human bone, specifically thigh bones. These human bone daggers appear to have been very rare, suggesting that they were reserved for those of high status. However, they were not ceremonial objects. It is evident from the condition of some of the recovered specimens that these daggers were used in close combat. There are accounts from 19th century explorers indicating that New Guinea tribes used human bone daggers in the practice of both cannibalism and mutilation. However, until recently these stories were considered sensational. We now know that the practice of making these daggers continued until the mid-20th century. Number 4. The Gallo-Roman Villa of Langeron. In November 2016, archaeologists working at a site near the village of Langeron, in Brittany, France, were rewarded for their efforts with the discovery of a massive Gallo-Roman villa. The villa consists of several buildings arranged in an H shape around a patio surrounded by galleries with columns. The patio alone covers more than 16,000 square feet. The location of the villa, which dates back to the 1st century, was probably chosen for the stunning view it offered of the River Rhine. Archaeological evidence at the site suggests that the property was expanded several times after its construction and remained in use until the 17th century. 4. Perhaps the most impressive structure remaining is the bath complex, which covers more than 4,300 square feet and includes a hot pool, a cold pool, a foot bath, and a caldarium complete with sauna and jacuzzi. Whoever lived there must have been immensely rich, but no identifying materials were found at the site. Historians have concluded that he belonged to a noble family from the town of Kyriacides, although that information doesn't really tell us much more. Number 5. Fragment. Many of us are worried about the impact that artificial intelligence may have on the human species in the future, but here in the present it is proving to be a powerful tool for archaeologists. In February 2023, archaeologists announced the invention of a new AI tool called Fragment. They hope to use it to reconstruct the mysteries of ancient Babylonian texts. The tool has been developed at the Institute of Assyriology at Ludwig Maximilian University in Germany, and is expected to make significant progress in decoding texts that are currently illegible. Researchers at the university have processed more than 22,000 fragments of untranslated texts from Babylonian cuneiform tablets, and hope to analyze many more. The tool is capable of identifying matching fragments, thus recreating broken tablets. You can also match writing sections based on what you know about identical words and phrases on other tablets. Preliminary results are encouraging, with the tool being tested and used by around 200 academics around the world. Eventually, the university team hopes to make Fragment available to everyone. Number 6. Funeral chamber in Abydos. Our next intriguing find comes from the ancient Egyptian city of Abydos. In November 2016, archaeologists located the site of a mud brick burial chamber, which appears to have served as the burial site for a king's burial ship about 3,800 years ago. The ship was the only physical object within the burial chamber, but for some reason it was accompanied by drawings of an entire fleet of similar ships on the walls, a total of 120. It is likely that the ship belonged to a king of the 12th dynasty, known as Senusret II, as his tomb has been located near the site. This place may have been discovered much earlier, as British archaeologist Arthur Weigall noticed something unusual here in 1902 and began excavating. However, the roof collapsed while his team was working, so they abandoned the project. These ships were expected to come to life in the afterlife and carry the deceased ruler on his journey through eternity. Although finding one surrounded by so many drawings is unique, we don't know what this ship did to deserve such special treatment. Number 7. Collection of harpoons and copper sword. This is an incredible discovery that happened by accident in June 2022. A farmer in the Mainpuri district of Uttar Pradesh, India, was plowing his field when he brought to the surface a collection of copper harpoons and swords that had been buried for at least 4,000 years. The farmer thought the artifacts were made of gold, rather than copper, so instead of alerting the authorities, he took them home and foolishly hid them. He then bragged to his friends about the discovery, which led the police to find out and raid his home. Now, the artifacts are in the hands of professionals, who wonder why they were all buried together in a single group. Were they hidden with the intention of returning for them? Or was there a weapons production facility here 4,000 years ago? What seems clear is that these weapons were designed for a supreme fighting force. They were not the type of weaponry that the average person of the time would possess. There does not appear to be any other archaeological evidence at the site, so these questions, sadly, may never be answered. Number 8. Ein-Gedi Scroll. As technology advances, we are able to open or examine ancient artifacts without touching or unwrapping them. One such artifact is a badly burned scroll, found in the city of Ein-Gedi, Israel, in 1970. The city burned to the ground in the early 6th century, which explains the state of the scroll, found in the sacred ark of the local synagogue. The parchment was already old at the time of the fire, having been written in the 3rd or 4th century. Using a program developed by Professor Brent Seals and his team at the University of Kentucky, the scroll was scanned and digitally unwrapped in September 2016. The contents revealed the first 8 verses of the Book of Leviticus. Thus, the Ein Gedi Scroll is officially the oldest book of Torah found since the famous discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. It is also the only example in the world of a book of the Pentateuch found inside a sacred ark. This technology is now being used to study other delicate ancient documents, including scrolls found in Pompeii and Herculaneum. Number 9. The Kish Tablet. Next, we review the Kish Tablet. This limestone artifact gets its name because it was discovered within the walls of the ancient Sumerian city of Kish, in Iraq. There is some confusion about when exactly it was discovered, with some sources saying 1923 and others 1933. Scientists have dated the tablet to the Uruk period, more than 5,000 years ago. According to most ancient language and culture experts who have inspected the Kish tablet, it is the oldest written document in the world. That makes it enormously significant, and we would love to be able to tell you what it says, but we can't. The writing on the tablet, if it is writing at all, is partially pictographic. The signs appear to be a type of proto-cuneiform. We have enough difficulties trying to translate cuneiform inscriptions. We have no chance of translating proto-cuneiform unless there are further advances in our understanding of the origins of writing. It is very likely that Kish's tablet contains a message, perhaps even several messages, but it is far from certain that we will ever be able to understand it. Number 10. Gold plates in Java. Golden treasures are the most fascinating type of archaeological discovery for many people. So let's take a look at a golden find on the Indonesian island of Java. This is a collection of 22 small gold plaques, each inscribed with religious symbols. The plaques were found together in a stone box not far from an ancient Buddhist temple. Archaeological experts were called to the site in Renjing village after the discovery was made accidentally by construction workers who were building an aquifer. Archaeologists believe the plaques were made during the 8th century. Each one is made of 18-karat gold, and the symbols are mostly dedicated to the wind gods, known as Dua Lokapala, of the Javanese religion based on Hinduism. The Central Java Heritage Conservation Agency took possession of the artifacts following the discovery in September 2016, but ensured that a reward was paid to both the construction workers and the owner of the land where the discovery was made. Since the plaques were inside a decorative box, it is likely that they were buried as a blessing or an offering when work on the nearby temple began. Number 11. The tomb of Khazar al-Farid in the Saudi desert. What if we told you that a huge tomb is located in the middle of nowhere? Pretty creepy, right? Well, in the northeast of Saudi Arabia, a mysterious massive building sits on the sand, and it is a tomb. That's right, this lonely castle, as it is called, is the tomb of Khazar al-Farid. It is carved into a rock that seems to appear literally out of nowhere. Apparently, the tomb was built by the Nabatean civilization 2,000 years ago. The same meticulous knowledge of stone carving was found in the Hira necropolis. Since the tomb of Khazar al-Farid appears literally out of nowhere in the desert, many researchers have questioned its origins. However, the tomb is not too far from the vast archaeological site of Madain Salih. The site was discovered and explored at the beginning of the 20th century and, guess what? More than 500 tombs were discovered and were also linked to the remains of the Nabatean city of Hira. This building is still full of mysteries. It appears to have been left in the middle of construction, as one facade is sculpted with infinite detail while the other was left untouched. And the craziest thing is that there doesn't seem to be evidence of burial in this tomb. Could the deceased wake up and disappear? Number 12. Snettishams Great Torques. Looking at the large Snettisham torque in the British Museum, you might assume that this wonderful golden piece was once owned by a British king or queen. If you were pressed to guess its age, you probably wouldn't say it is more than 300 or 400 years old, as it is in remarkably good condition and its intricate design clearly indicates skillful craftsmanship. However, you would be far from the truth with that assumption, because this incredible golden torque was made just over 2,000 years ago. It is the most beautiful and best preserved Iron Age torque ever found in the UK, and comes from the infamous Snettisham hoard, unearthed in 1950. We date the object more precisely thanks to a coin found with it, which indicated that it was minted in the year 75 BC. The Iceni tribe is known to have lived in this part of England during this time, so it is possible that this torque belonged to one of their leaders. It is not of Roman design, and it is difficult to imagine who else would have the status or resources to own a solid gold torque. Number 13. Mysterious symbols carved in the Qatar Desert. In the northeast of Qatar, in a place called Al Jassasiyah, an abandoned sandstone mine has been discovered hiding hundreds of mysterious symbols. This impressive historical site is home to nearly 900 rock carvings known as petroglyphs. These fascinating petroglyphs span an area of 700 meters and were first found in 1957. However, they are estimated to date back to 300 BC, making them a historically important treasure. These mysterious engravings take different forms and provide us with a fascinating vision of the past. Some of them are simple ovals, and historians suggest that they could represent containers used to store pearls or even ancient board games, which tells us about the importance of culture and entertainment at that time. On the other hand, there are much more complex engravings that represent animals such as fish and ostriches, which makes us reflect on the fauna and diversity at that time. In addition to these designs, you can also see carvings of rows of engraved rosettes, which shows us the skill and activity of the ancient artists. As if that were not enough, traditional boats have been found that are still used today, which allows us to imagine what the means of transportation were like in that place and time. Number 14. The Charioteer of Delphi. The Charioteer of Delphi gets its name because it is a statue of an ancient Greek chariot driver. It was discovered within the sanctuary of Apollo in Delphi, Greece, in 1896. The Greek name for the statue, which is considered a masterpiece of ancient bronze sculpture, is Heliokos, which translates as "he who holds the reins." Some historians believe that the statue represents Palazalos of Gela, a tyrannical leader of Sicily, and that it was erected to commemorate his victory in the chariot race at the Pythian Games in 474 BC. However, another group of historians believes that the person represented is Hiero, brother of Palazalos, who was also celebrating a victory in the chariot race, but in the Olympic Games. The statue is all that remains of what was once a significantly larger work of art, which included 4 horses and possibly a pair of grooms. The Charioteer of Delphi is most likely the work of Pythagoras of Rhegium, a notable sculptor of the time who lived in Sicily. However, the possibility that it was the ancient Greek sculptor Calamus is not ruled out. Bronze statues from this era are rare because they were often melted down to reuse the material, but this one partially survived because it was buried under a rockfall.